It's News from Heaven. Today we're talking about how to tell if your desires are real or fake. And you could say, some people would say, don't come in here and try to label as legit or not legit the stuff that's going on in my heart and mind. There's all kinds of religion and authoritative stuff trying to discredit parts of the vibrant soul that makes me me. Okay. But on the other side, as a survivor or continuing adapter to things like depression and, for a while, obsessive compulsive disorder, the idea of being able to parse out and protect yourself from false things in the mind is of great interest to me. Because I don't know how much you guys know about like obsessive compulsive disorder. It is essentially you get all these false promptings where you're being told very forcefully inside yourself that if you take these particular actions that absolutely have no impact on the future trajectory of your life or events, that you have to do those things or else things are going to go wrong here. It's absolutely false. The desire to do that thing is just false. It's not real. So I had to really get into like what is going on in the mind and why is some of this stuff just seeming absolutely toxic. And I think it's safe to say that we all could be interested in the idea that, look, Swedenborg lays out this world that he says underlies the psychological experience that we all go through. And there actually are sort of two sources. There is stuff that, just like in the body, there are organisms in there that are trying to destroy the order that allows you to function, right? There is stuff coming into us that is not actually just somehow part of a good system. This is actually toxic to our mental state. And then there is other stuff that is actually trying to create spiritual homeostasis in us. And how do we navigate that? How do we figure out if our desires are real or fake? Well, for that, we'll turn to Swedenborg's Secrets of Heaven 3796. To take up the topic of desire for truth and goodness. Any genuine desire, here we go. We got a genuine desire we feel for truth and goodness comes from a divine origin because it comes from the Lord. So how do you even begin labeling whether something is genuine or fake? It's the same way you label smartphones. There are some that are genuine because we say there's a supply chain where the actual company that makes them, let's say this company has a logo that looks like that, is making your phone, and then there it is. But then there are other companies who actually are not that company, but they go and try to make something that looks just like that company's phone, but you don't know if it has the same quality or anything. It's fake. And it actually could be very different inside. And taken to a more extreme degree, you can actually have something that on the outer shell looks like it's this complex, expensive thing. Somebody sells you a watch or something that in reality is just nothing but metal. It doesn't actually function. So one thing we got to look at is the source. And in this case, the source is the Lord. So the actual desires for goodness and truth. And that is something we could spend all day talking about. What exactly is that? But it's something. Those things in us, if they come from the Lord, they're genuine. On its way down, though, so we have the Lord emanating out desires for goodness and truth. On its way down, though, it flows off into various different channels where it forms new sources for itself. Okay. Complexity emerges. So let's say that you have a field here, which is us. And the Lord, the source of what is actually good and true, what is actually going to lead us to happiness and past all the negativity, the source of order in life. So that stuff is coming in out of God into us. However, it seems like even though everything starts at its origin here, there can be some complication along the way. And it's not clear right here, various different channels where it forms new sources for itself. Is it the Lord is coming down through the chain of consciousness that Swedenborg describes of, you've got that into heaven and that into the world of spirits, but also you can potentially go through the lower sort of levels of hell up into us. You have the higher levels of heaven here. And as something maybe flows through this channel, but then gets intercepted here and then goes down and comes into us there, which by that time maybe it's actually a little more negative. Is that it? Or is it also within us that as the God's desire for goodness and truth comes down into our sort of pinball machine of, this is something we want, this is something we believe, this is some desire we have, this is some experience we've had, and in the course of that, it actually can be twisted into something that either is good or can be negative for us, and could also be sort of sideways, that it's just less direct. It's not bad, but it's not, the straight stuff, okay? As it flows into desires we have that are artificial rather than genuine. And I like that. Okay, so it's not like a value judgment, but this is just fake rather than genuine. Isn't this, we're having this big struggle with food, and that there are some companies that are putting stuff together that really seems like food, but if you actually look at the nutritional value in it and the stuff that's in there that has the potential to harm the biological systems that we've got to have to live, it's artificial, and it can be very delicious, but will cause us problems either immediately or down the line, right? That's not too bad. That's not too religious, see? Artificial desires, junk food desires, rather than genuine. And then this is where it gets really negative, right? So not everything has to be that black and white, but there is the desires for evil and falsity. It changes accordingly. So let's say this green one was an artificial desire. This is a desire for evil and falsity. And this path here would be, if we're saying that this bottom right corner somehow is our consciousness or our decision-making machine, our freedom, whatever it is, there are these different things that make it into our desire box here. The outward appearance it presents, it being these desires, is often the same as that of genuine desire. But this is what its inner form is like. How do we know? They actually appear the same. How could you ever tell when something makes its way into your consciousness box? It all just seems like, I want this, I want that. There's probably good reasons I can pull up for why I'm going where I'm going. So how could you possibly ever differentiate? Oh, here we go. One sign by which we may recognize it is the aim, the purpose. When these things come in, what do they want to go out in the world and do? What effect are they intending to bring back to us? If the aim of desire is personal power or worldly advantages, the two great foibles, personal power or worldly advantages, the desire is not genuine. And I would add here exclusively, because either of these can be a means to doing something good. But if this is really what we want, our reputation, whatever permutation of this is appealing to you, or this, if that's the highest good, then we may be dealing with a non-genuine, genuine meaning right out of God that actually has life in it, desire. And if even there you're saying this is too legalistic and strict and judgmental, stay tuned. There are a couple of pretty cool clarifications headed our way at top speed. If, on the other hand, the aim is, what's the opposite of that? The good of our neighbor, society at large, and the country, and particularly if it's the good of the church and the Lord's kingdom, it is genuine. So here we have a bunch of stuff. What does all these things have in common? This looks out beyond the self to the greater good. That's not to say that this is self-sacrifice, because who's part of society? Who's part of the country, the church, whether that's an internal state or an external organization, the Lord's kingdom? You're in there too. And actually, we get most of our well-being out of those things. And I would say most of our challenges come out of those things not being healthy. Because if we have a system where, like I was talking about food before, and if the food supply is an issue, where's that coming from? Well, it's coming from society. And if the society is full of people who are devoted to the good of the neighbor and want to actually take seriously the challenge of equipping our bodies to be able to do what they need to do and live healthily, that comes down to the individual in the form of nourishment and consistent ability to access food, which is around now like it hasn't for a percentage of the population like it's never been before. So if you have that going, if the church, or whatever you want to call it, the spiritual community, is out there and humming, you get the right truths you need, this is actually a great deal for the self. And the win-win is when we look to give back to that. Plus, it's just the right thing to do. You can't just go around saying, the other one, if we have personal power and worldly advantages as our aim, that's essentially saying, oh, the world is crazy and messed up. I'm going to insulate myself from pain at the expense of everyone, so that they'll feel the thing and live the life as I gain my power and advantages that I'm trying to escape. I'm just outsourcing it, or I'm externalizing it to them. There's this big issue with corporations I forget what it was called. There's this term for it. It's sort of, maybe it's just externalizing, where you say, look, there's a cost. We have created this kind of waste in our factory that we know is hazardous to human beings and can cause cancer and all that kind of stuff. It's very expensive to clean up, though. It will hurt our bottom line, so we'll externalize it, meaning we'll dump it in the river. Now we don't have to do it. Now we don't have to pay for it. No cost. But actually, the cost is paid by the fishes and the birds and the humans downstream. That's the problem with going after this stuff, and that's why it's just not genuine. It doesn't, in the end, do anything good for anyone, because if you're after this stuff, even if you get it and it's great, it wrecks your spirit, because heaven is not built on this. Heaven is built on everything else that we just mentioned in blue. The aim is then the Lord, because the Lord is present in that good. Oh, so caring for other people is caring for the Lord. Just FYI. It takes, okay, and here we go into, all right, great. Thanks, Curtis. You've given us 10-ish minutes of basic religious morality. Thank you. I really needed that. I get you. I hear you. It takes, let's see if we can add some shades of gray here and a little self-forgiveness. It takes wisdom, though, to know what our own aims are. Don't go out there and say, I know I have bad aims or good aims. It's hard. It's hard to discern that. Sometimes our goal seems selfish when it's not. Seems selfish when it's not. So you can't even go in and say, oh, look, I am being selfish. You don't know. You don't know if you're being selfish. Why? Because out of custom and habit, we naturally ponder self-interest at every step. It's just how we're built, at least in this current iteration of humanity. And it's very tough to break away from that. And how do you do that practically in a way in which allows you to live an effective life and not destroy your ability to be happy or to help others? We are the center of a universe that we're in. And he seems to be saying here, look, there's a place for that. So it can seem selfish when it's not. However, okay, so how do you tell? Here we go. However, if you want to know what ends you hold in view, simply notice the kind of pleasure you feel when given praise and glory. Okay? That's about whether, how does it feel when we get praise and glory, and the kind of pleasure you feel in useful activity apart from personal benefit. If you enjoy the latter, your desire is genuine. And what I like about this is, I think what he's saying here is, of course, you're going to enjoy, to some extent, praise and glory. You don't usually say it in those words, but yeah, it was great. Today somebody gave me praise and glory about something I did well, because we're trying to do well at things. It feels nice to be affirmed as human beings from time to time. Dad. Just kidding. I like my dad. So when you are getting that, you can't just say, well, I know I'm good because I hated it when somebody said I did a good job. However, how about, can you feel joy anywhere else? Is it only exclusively praise and glory? That if we're part of a project that we don't get credit for, ooh, this is a little close to home. If we're part of a project that we don't get credit for, Do we still like that if we know it's doing good? If you can experience some kind of joy there, that's a good indicator. And if it's not there, understanding that that's somewhere you want to get and trying to take whatever steps might put you in that direction, trying to cultivate that inside you, that is a little healthy or a handy indicator, like one of those dip strips that you put in to see what's the pH in your water. That indicates, okay, there might be some genuine desire. Not that I don't love praise and glory, but it's not the only thing I can metabolize. More clarification here. We ought to pay attention to the various states we pass through, because the states themselves usually change our perception. This is something we can examine in ourselves, but not in others, because the Lord alone knows the aim of every desire. That is why the Lord said, don't judge anyone or you'll be judged. Don't condemn anyone or you'll be condemned. 1,000 people can seem to have the same desire for truth and goodness, when in reality, each has a desire with a different origin or a different aim. So if we're up here looking at our diagram to say, all right, this is how people are built, great, because I think I've got a pretty good sense of my coworker or the person that, or my neighbor next door, they don't have genuine desires. We can't know that stuff. Even somebody that you really dislike, somebody in the news and you really dislike what they've done, you can condemn the action. You say, we can't allow that, we need to take steps against it. You can write a treatise on why that's not appropriate, but you can't, if you want to follow a particular spiritual path, say, I know that person is evil. I know why that person did it. Plus, great way to ruin your relationships is to tell somebody else, this is why you did that. As soon as you cross that boundary, we did this great show on micro boundaries. It's something, the show title is something like How to Maintain Healthy Spiritual Boundaries or something like that. That as soon as we had this relationship, couples therapist in there, or general therapist, I don't remember, but they were saying a great way to start a fight or drive people apart is to say, I know this is why you did that. I'm coach telling you, not what you did. You can say this action is harmful, but why you did it, what was going on in your spirit. That we can barely know that about ourselves. Only the Lord can even know this about us. So we're absolutely not equipped to go out and say we know it about someone else. And in fact, God is saying that is something you need to get inscribed on your mind. I'm putting this as a commandment. Don't do it, because that leads to problems. There's enough work to do in here. Again, go ahead, take the external actions you need to set up a functioning society, distance yourself from people that are harmful, whatever that is, but don't go around thinking you know what's in people's hearts, because everybody could potentially have their own reason, and really only angels and God know this, a different origin. Is somebody else's desires real and fake? You don't know. You don't know. The reason the aim determines whether a desire is real, fake, or deceitful, and I told you that the fake from the title is actually right out of the text. Real, fake, but look at this third option. Real, fake, or deceitful, this is maybe intending to harm, is that our purpose is our very life. What we live for, or in other words, what we love is what we hold as our goal. When the welfare of our neighbor, the larger community, the church, and the Lord's kingdom, our list from before, form our goal, our soul dwells in the Lord's kingdom, and therefore in the Lord. Handy dandy, one sentence. Is he going to highlight this whole sentence? Well, generally, just so you guys know, if you're getting into highlighting things, it's worth highlighting any number of words if those words give you the entirety of the instructions to getting to heaven or to the destiny and best state we can get in forever. Okay, how do you do it? Well, make the welfare of the neighbor, the community, the church, the Lord's kingdom, essentially these nesting doll layers of the human race working together. If that is overall, not that we don't love praise and things and on the way, if that is what we get up in the morning really pushing toward, is how can I make life better for all these other conscious beings that are going through the same thing I am, then guess what? Your soul is already in heaven. Your soul is in God. That's what it takes. It's not about memorizing some kind of doctrine or thesis or doing a ritual or whatever you think may be the difficult path to morality. This is the essence and soul of that. Yeah, I love it. I love the compass. The Lord's kingdom is just a kingdom of goals and usefulness, seeking the good of the whole human race. Oh, man. Okay, sorry. There's going to be another highlight. I didn't even really realize this sentence was coming up like it was. That is a beautiful little succinct. What is God's kingdom? What is heaven? Is it just a place where everybody's rich and powerful, or there's really good infrastructure? What do you mean heaven, that somebody can be in or out of it? The Lord's kingdom, the thing God is trying to do, is just a kingdom of goals and usefulness, seeking the good of the whole human race. Okay, there's two elements there. There's the means and the purpose. The means are these goals and usefulness. It's to be able to get things done, and why? The good of the whole human race. If you want to know the mind of God, that's it. That is, what's God's secret grand plan? It's that. Even the angels who attend us concern themselves only with our goals. Two angels with every person. What are they looking at in you? They're actually most interested in what's your purpose, not whether or not you slipped today. So far as the end we have in view matches that of the Lord's kingdom, the angels delight in us and bind themselves to us as their sisters or brothers. And not that they wouldn't want to. See our previous episode about angels reviving half-dead spirits. It's not that they say, well, okay, now you're good enough. The angels are constantly wanting to unite and bring happiness to everybody. But if we do this, that gives us the way in to really how would you like to be connected in the family with the awesomest human beings that Swedenborg calls angels, and what they can do for your psychological state, and how they can help you get through the difficult kind of mind and heart stuff and life situations? How would you not want that? So far as we make ourselves the goal, though, the angels withdraw because they have to, and evil spirits from hell move closer. Generally, if I look on the tag and it says from hell, it's not going to be of great service to you, because hell is never trying to make you happy. It is predatory. Oneself is the only goal in hell. If you want a little succinct definition, it's oneself is the only goal. It's not that you can't be a goal, but that's the only thing you care about. That is what hell is. Yeah, a lot of like high-end, broad thesis, mission, statement kind of stuff in this one. This shows how important it is to examine and discover the origin of our desires, which we can determine only from our purpose. And that's the news from heaven. Hopefully, this discussion of purpose gets us to think, how do you ever untangle yourself? Well, the surefire way is to have that. I mentioned compass before. Let's do North Star, right? Isn't that something people say? Wow, what a beautiful North Star. That's there, and we can know. I'm confused by this. This thing has my number. I don't know how to get out from this. I don't know how to quiet or allay the fears that are coming in here about my future. I do know, though, that this is where my home is. My home is here, which is working to bring happiness to everyone. That's my home. And that none of this stuff, loud as it may seem, abrasive and brash as it may seem, prominent as it may seem in our mental landscape, none of this has any longevity or power compared to this heaven that God is preparing for us. And so to me, when this obsessive compulsive thing is saying, you have to do this or this, no, the only thing you have to do is this, right? That's the only thing you have to do. And you can trust the process. Okay, thanks so much, guys. Hey, do you like digging into these sorts of ideas? Would you please consider coming and hanging out with us? We're doing our first ever weekend immersion retreat. Check out the link in the description for more info. You will get to spend, we take 3 whole days to dive deep into this stuff with a community of people who are loving these concepts like you are. I'm super excited about it, and it's going to happen if you guys say you want to do it. Slots are filling up. Get in there, and hope to see you there. Like and subscribe if you haven't on this show. Leave a comment. Let me know, does this actually help? Or do you have a further insight? Can you take this concept further? How did you use it? How did it make life better? These are the things I want to know, because, right, didn't we just say we want to make life better for the whole human race? This is one way we can do it. Thank you so much for making my morning better by allowing me to chat this through with you. See you soon.